too cold.
Oh, that's nice. So I can see people are coming in. So hello everyone. Welcome to SplashLearn Thursday Talks. So we will just like give people to like a chance to come in, and till then maybe invite your friends, invite other parents, invite other teachers who would kind of be interested in today's topic, which basically is how to prevent summer learning loss. And while we are waiting, please add comments. Like if you have any questions about the topic, like add your questions in the comment section. We'll have a Q&A at the end. And yeah, more people are coming in. Hello, welcome. And I think we can start because I think this is the right time to start because it is time. And so, hi, I'm Swati. I'm from SplashLearn. And today we will be talking about how to prevent summer learning loss. And as most of you already know, summer learning loss has always been sort of like a concern every year. And I think parents and all teachers kind of like feel it every year, but this year, as we all know, is kind of unique, especially because of the schools have been closed for a couple of months, and there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions related to this, that are floating around, where parents and even teachers are kind of wondering, things like, has like learning loss already started, because like the schools are closed, right? Like they have been closed for 3 months and then it's not been the same. Also, if like how bad is like learning loss going to be this year when students go back to school, and can parents do something to kind of stop this? So today we have with us Jackelyn Shultz and Huls to kind of help us answer all of these questions. So before we start, I'm going to just like briefly tell everyone a little bit about the both of them and why we kind of chose them to come speak to you today. Huls is a fourth grade teacher in West Michigan, and is the content creator of the YouTube channel Elementary in the Mitten. Jackelyn Schultz is the author of the children's book Abby and Axel's Guide to Adventure, and a mother of 2 young children. She's also the content creator of the YouTube channel Life with Jackie. So the way we are going to kind of structure this talk today is that first we'll hear about the topic from Kim, and who is a teacher, and then we will switch over to Jackie, who will bring in a unique point of view because she is a parent who also used to teach. So Kim, let's talk about summer learning loss.
The introduction.
So what we would like to know is, what has your experience been like with summer remote learning, and what are your thoughts about summer learning loss?
At least in my school district, we started with basically just an extra long spring break because this all happened right before spring break. So we had planned on being gone for about 3 weeks. And by, the middle of that second or third week, we knew we weren't going to be coming back. And so it went from, how do we prepare kids to be gone for 3 weeks to how do we prepare kids to be gone for several months? So totally different than what we expected as teachers. And I know parents are in the same boat with that. It's just, nobody could have planned for this. Nobody could have expected what has happened. And I think the biggest difficulty for my students so far has just been missing that social aspect, like missing the opportunity to be around their peers, around their teacher. And I feel very lucky because a lot of my students have siblings, so they were able to still have, some other kids in the house, but it's just not the same, as having your friends around. And when we would have our video calls, quite often I would say, like, how are you guys getting along about the siblings, to see if they were all handling each other okay. And some houses were a little bit more than the other ones, I think. But I definitely think in the fall, hopefully we'll be back together in person. And I think the kids are really going to enjoy just seeing their peers again and being around each other. A big concern that I have with all of this as a teacher is just that opportunity gap. So some students have had opportunities to have technology and really utilize technology. And maybe students have had parents who are able to maybe spend some of the day with them or the whole day with them. Whereas other parents might not have that same opportunity. You know, they might be going to work every single day still, especially those essential workers who worked the entire pandemic and never had a day off. So I think it's going to be really interesting in the fall to just see like where we're all at. And as a teacher, I know, you know, it's going to be a big challenge to take on, but also I feel like, you know, everybody's going to be in the same boat with that. Like it's going to be all across the board for everyone. So just really figuring out where kids are at and trying to meet them where they're at and then catch up if we need to catch up. I do think that this fall is going to be, you know, it's going to be tough for everyone, for parents, for teachers, and for students as well, just trying to figure out what do we need to learn and making sure we're doing, you know, step A, B, and C before moving on to D. So just trying to catch kids up with that. So I do anticipate summer learning loss is going to be a lot more dramatic this year. Typically, we refer to it as summer slide, but it's the same idea. And it's always happening, you know, in the fall. We do a lot of beginning of year tests, and usually kids test better in the spring than they do in the fall. And it's just, that's how it goes every year for most kids. So it's not just, you know, one kid or a small percentage of kids. It's usually most of the class that has that going on. So it just know like this always happens, but I do predict it to be quite a bit bigger this year just because, you know, kids are going through a lot of emotional stress, a lot of anxieties right now. And so I think it's going to be really, really challenging to try to catch kids up, but we'll do it. We'll do what we need to do there for sure. So I think just parents too need to remind themselves, you know, that we've got this. We're going to take it one step at a time and just give yourself some grace with it because teachers aren't expecting you to be able to be the teacher expects you to be a homestay for you is it's going to look kid even. I've had some of the parents of my students reach out to me and say, you know, maybe the fourth grader is doing all the work, but my second grader, you know, is really stressed out and having a lot of trouble staying focused. And so I think it's going to look different for each kid as well. So it'll be okay though. We'll all get where we need to go.
That's good. How would you kind of like for parents, because like it is sort of like a like because it's sort of like the unknown, like we don't know how bad learning loss will be, so like a lot of parents have been thinking about like what is something that we can do maybe during the summer and kind of like help prevent this. So do you have any tips as a teacher, because as you mentioned, you kind of see learning loss every year. So like any tips as a teacher which parents can use at home during the summer would be kind of great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing is just looking for those small opportunities to learn every single day. So not making it, you know, where the child has to sit down and just do a bunch of worksheets or a bunch of, you know, work that they probably don't want to do. And so they're not really going to do it or they're not going to do their best work on it at least. But instead looking for those fun opportunities to maybe find activities to do together as a family or different things that you can do that maybe incorporate some learning, but don't feel like so much work maybe. So for example, something that I really encourage my students to do this year, parents and students, is to either go to a public library if one is open near you or looking into those opportunities online. I know there's an app called the Libby app and the Overdrive app that you can connect your library card to, and then you're able to check out electronic materials, and that can be great for kids because then whether they're at home and they're scrolling through or they're walking the different aisles of a library, it's really fun for kids to be able to choose their own books that are really high interest to them, books that stand out and maybe are about things that they're interested in. They could learn a new hobby or learn a new skill, or they could do research about somebody that they want to do research about, somebody they're interested in, or it could be as simple as, reading some graphic novels, because reading is reading. So it really doesn't matter what the kids are reading as long as it's something that they're interested in, and making that a part of your daily routine. So sitting down maybe as a family every day or having a carved out time for your child to sit down and do that reading is really, really important. And it does make a huge difference. Also, as the parent, if you're able to sit down and read aloud to your child, that's going to make a really big difference as well, especially for younger children to hear that out loud and get that vocabulary. If you're working on math, you could do a lot of different things. You could get on SplashLearn and you can utilize that resource that is game-based and really fun for kids. So it doesn't feel like they're just sitting down and working. It feels like a fun treat. You also could do like some baking or some cooking together and have your child help you measure out, the different ingredients and put those into your bowl together. And even try maybe like halving a recipe or doubling a recipe. And then you're doing conversions there. You can do multiplication and division. So if you can fool your kids into thinking that they're not doing schoolwork, that's going to be your best bet. So anytime you can make it fun, you can make it hands-on, I think that's going to be really great. And then with math as well, you could do like a building project together. You could try to make something. You could do a STEM activity. There's just so many opportunities for learning that aren't just sitting down and having your one spot where you have to stay all day, or it's not fun if kids are sitting down doing work and they see mom and dad are watching a movie or hanging out doing something else, or they see brother or sister is outside playing. They're not going to want to do that. So making time for play in there as well, and making time to maybe go on a walk or take a brain break in there is going to be really, really important as well. So just kind of breaking it up a little bit and making it not feel like work, I think, is going to be the biggest thing you can do this summer to keep that learning going, keep that momentum, and keep the kids happy too, because that's huge. Like, we want to protect that social emotional piece as well.
Thank you so much. I think those were like a lot of good points. So I think we can kind of switch over to Jackie to get like a parent's perspective. But before that, like, people who kind of joined us midway, I would like to just tell you, please, if you have any questions about the topic, like, add them in the comment section and we will get to them at the end, because we'll have a Q&A session. So yes, over to you, Jackie. Like, as a parent, like, what has remote learning been like for you? And what are your thoughts on summer learning loss? And what will you be doing with your kids during the summer?
All right. So first of all, I have notes. If you see me looking down, it's because I have notes and I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to be looking at those.
Completely understandable. Yes.
So distance learning has been a struggle, to say the least, for me in my household. I think for a lot of other parents out there as well. I have 2 little kids and they loved like going to school. They loved the social interaction. My daughter especially had a complete love of learning, which made me just so happy. And then I saw a complete switch in her when we went to the distance learning and the Zoom meetings, to no fault of the teacher. She has the best teacher. And I think all teachers were kind of just thrown into this without much preparation. And her teacher was amazing and had those opportunities to go on with her classmates every single day. But it's just different because she wasn't sitting with the other kids in her class. She wasn't doing a lot of group learning. There wasn't that scaffolded instruction. It was a lot of whole group instruction. So it was really, really hard for her to make that transition. And she was also out of the classroom environment. So no matter how structured you think your home is, it's not like the classroom. Like, that classroom environment is structured. They could get more done. And it's just really hard to do that at home, especially if you have adults in the home as well that are trying to work, or other siblings that you're trying to work with at a different pace. It's just really, really hard. So I saw that struggle during distance learning during the year. And then concerns about summer learning loss, because we don't have those check-ins with the teacher every single day, then I feel like it's going to be more of a struggle to me to make sure that she is learning every single day. She's getting that check-in. They're working on the things that they should be working on. And also, I was able to sit with her during those daily check-ins, so I can see what they're working on, and I can see what she was struggling with, and I can also see how the teacher was approaching it. So if I wanted to work with her more, I had the ability to see that when she was working with the teacher, and now I don't have that. I'm kind of on my own, which is going to be a real struggle for me. And also, kids are always a lot more motivated to learn or to do anything when it's coming from their teacher. And I didn't realize this when I was a teacher, but kids will do way more with their teacher, and when their teacher tells them to do something, than they will with the parent. So that is also a struggle, because I don't have the teacher there telling her that they have to complete this work. When it's coming from me, she's like, no way. Summer, I think, is going to be different this year than well, for sure. It's going to be different this year than any other year because I am one of those really, really neurotic parents. So we have not been going out. I mean, summer school is canceled. Summer camps are canceled. There would normally be a lot of activities where she is able to socialize and able to learn through the activities she's doing. And that is kind of gone now, and it's all falling on me. So we're still going to be home and not really taking part in those activities because, I mean, my father is like the poster child of OCD, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I have a lot of anxiety and we're staying home. So it's still going to fall on me over the summer to make sure that the summer learning loss doesn't happen, or not to a great degree. So I'm going through my notes here as quickly as possible, but you can stop me whenever I'm going.
No.
Okay. So a little bit about my background. So, I was a teacher. I got my master's and credential from UCLA, and then I became nationally board certified. I taught for 10 years in kindergarten, first, second, and third. And my teaching style was a lot of like group learning, a lot of interaction, a lot of centers. But I have to tell you, all of my experience as a teacher is kind of going out the window, and it's a whole different ballgame, not only with distance learning, but just as a parent, trying to teach at home and being a parent while you're also trying to manage laundry or cooking or working from home. So it is a whole different ballgame. And I think what's really important to remember is to be kind to yourself and be kind to your kids and not to drive yourself crazy. I, at first, really, really, really wanted to take this head on and make a crazy intense schedule like I had when I was teaching. And every single half hour was planned for both of my children and myself. And that went right out the window within 3 days. I could not manage that. I could not keep it up. I was going to drive myself insane. So finding what works for you and finding what works for your family and your child is necessary, and not to be too hard on yourself, especially when you have one day where nothing goes as planned and there was no opportunities to learn and you were just trying to relax. I think that's fine. And everyone needs that every once in a while. Something that has really worked for me in terms of a schedule is just having like a few must-dos each day, whether it's sitting down and reading for 15 minutes or baking, because that takes care of a math standard that you want to work on, or whatever the activity is. And like Kim says, it doesn't have to be sitting and working on a worksheet. Whatever the activity is that has to do with learning, those are your must-dos. And then once you complete those 2 or 3 must-dos, whatever they are, then you could go on to a may-do, go do something fun, go do something that they're really excited about, so that they have an opportunity to know that when they're done, they get to do something that's really enjoyable for them, like painting their mom's nails. So. But I think just being nice to yourself is the main thing, finding out what works for you and not making it like super intense.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's true. Because the thing is, like, when the whole remote learning thing started this year, I remember like everyone was kind of thinking about like, okay, which daily planner should I kind of follow with my kids? And everyone started very optimistically. And then it kind of just like all went out the window, and we realized like, oh no, this will not work. Rather, we need to kind of like customize according to each child and kind of see what works for them, because even they have kind of been thrown into this uncertain situation. So we kind of need to be like we need to know that, like, be aware of this fact. Yeah.
And you also don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, everything is out. We're so lucky to have all these resources that are readily available to us, whether it is on Pinterest and you want to find first grade activities for reading, whether it's on Teachers Pay Teachers. I know I just looked, I was telling Kim, I looked at her Teachers Pay Teachers and she has great resources on there, but there's so many resources that we could look for, and we don't have to do the work ourselves.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you, Jackie, so much. Yeah, I think like both of you kind of like together like have compiled like a very good list of ways that parents can kind of like teach their kids this summer. So like everyone who's watching, we will be kind of compiling all of these and putting this up on our Facebook group, which is called SplashLearn. So please join, like shameless plug here. So I think this is the right time to kind of move on to the questions, and we are actually right on time. So this is great. Like you guys were great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of like read out the questions that we have, and then both of you can kind of like tell us what you think about this. So the first one is, it's very difficult to get my son to sit down and study at home. He's always distracted. How can I get him in the habit of studying during the break?
Yeah, I feel like we both kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think the biggest thing is making it not feel so daunting. So breaking up that work. And I know like I teach 4th grade, some of the work that we were sending out was time-consuming work and work that wasn't always fun. So what I would tell my students is, okay, make it your goal to do maybe 3 math problems and then take a break. Maybe do a little dance party or take a walk, or even breaking it up by saying like, okay, before I have lunch today, I'm going to do 3 problems, then I'm going to sit down and eat lunch, and then I'm going to come back. And so that way it doesn't feel so overwhelming and so daunting, and it can just feel a little bit more manageable. If you have work, because I know some schools did send work over the summer, so everybody's in different positions right now. So let's say your child has some of that worksheet work that we're saying isn't so fun and they need to break it up a little bit, then you could say, okay, on Monday, like let's highlight 3 problems you want to do, and you could let the child go in any order that they want. And so then they get those 3 problems done, and then, okay, take a different color highlighter, highlight 3 problems you want to do. And so just kind of turning it into a game and making it fun. Or at least if you can't make it fun, trying to break it up a little bit and doing fun things in between, I think is going to be really huge. And then also if you can find a spot in the house where your child can make it like their workspace, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that's the only place they can work, but it's a place that's quiet, that doesn't have, TV on in the background, then that's going to be a really, really great thing to do as well. So your child isn't constantly distracted by a little buzzing in the back, or, if the window's open, hearing like the neighborhood kids playing outside, that stuff's going to be really distracting. So as much as you can eliminate that while they're doing their work, then I think that's going to be really helpful for the child.
Okay, that sounds great. Should I move on to the next question?
You can.
Yeah.
Unless you want me to say I can give my opinion.
So I mean, we can move, I think, to the next question. So the next one is, my schedule is very busy and I can't sit down with my kids daily for study time, but I want to ensure that they keep learning on their own. Any suggestions how I can achieve this?
So I think when I was in my classroom, the model that I followed was the I do, we do, you do. So anything that you're telling your kids to do, it's important that you model it first. So if you're expecting them when you're not around, then when you are around, whether it's 10 or 15 minutes, you're modeling what that looks like. When I'm not here, this is how we sit. This is where we're going to be. We make sure that there's no TV in the background, and you can model what it looks like when you're working or what the expectations are. You guys can do it together, and then eventually hopefully they will be able to do it on their own.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I think this is probably the last question that we have. And then we'll kind of wrap it up. Any other questions that we might have missed, we'll be answering them later in the comment section. So yeah. The third question is, learning from home has been super stressful for my 3rd grader. And while I'm worried about learning loss, I also want to give him some time off. Would it be a terrible idea not to study at all during the break?
So as a teacher, I'm going to tell you again, give yourself grace. And we don't want learning to be stressful and overwhelming and something that kids don't enjoy. We want to keep learning fun. We want to keep it light. And so when you do those things that Jackie and I both talked about, where you're not making it, a big chore, you're making it something fun and an activity, then it's not going to feel so overwhelming. Now, there might be times where you have to do something if it's assigned by school or something like that. But I really do think that you know, their mental state comes first and their emotions do come first in that. And we want kids to, you know, be coming into the school year in the fall feeling ready and relaxed and excited for school, and not feel like it's this scary place or like it's a place, you know, that, oh no, I have to do work again. We don't want them to feel like that either. So definitely take time for fun summer things, whether, you know, it's something free, drawing with chalk outside, or hanging out with, you know, neighborhood friends if you're able to. I know everyone's, you know, kind of at different places right now, but hanging out with, you know, siblings even, or whatever you need to do. I think that those things do take precedence over stuff that, you know, is maybe causing your child to feel overwhelmed and really stressed out. That doesn't mean, you know, don't do any reading over the summer. As a teacher, I would love for every kid to keep reading and stuff like that. But yeah, just make sure that we're meeting those emotions as well.
Okay.
I think it's also important that kids know that learning can be fun. So if you do find opportunities where they are having fun during the activity, if they're writing a letter to their best friend and sending it in the mail and doing a pen pal activity, if they're baking with you and you know they're doing math, they don't have to realize it in the moment, but you can tell them afterwards, hey, we just learned, you just did your lesson. So they know that learning doesn't always mean that it is daunting and horrible. Learning could be a lot of fun too. And I think that it's important that we teach our kids to love learning.
Yeah, makes sense. So we had one more question, but I think both of you have kind of answered that. So I think we can wrap it up. And this has been great. Thank you so much. And everyone else like who's watching in, we will be, like I mentioned before, I'm going to just repeat myself. We will compile all the tips that Jackie and Kim kind of like talked about today, and we'll be putting them up on our group, which is called Splash Circle. So thank you so much, Jackie and Kim, for coming out today and sharing all of these like useful insights and tips with us. So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who joined us today. So we will just like kind of like be ending this call. But we hope to see you at the next like SplashLearn Thursday Talks. If you have a topic suggestion for the next time, so please do also mention that in the comments section. For more resources related to summer learning, go to our Facebook group again, to Splash Circle, and also please check out Kim's YouTube channel, which is called Elementary in the Mitten, and Jackie's channel, which is called Life with Jackie. So thank you so much and good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.